The universe has a strange way of keeping score. It may not shout, but it never forgets. Every throne they tried to throw in your path, thinking it would make you stumble, it turned into the stage you now rise from. See, life doesn't let the wicked walk freely for long. There's a cosmic balance built into everything, and those who plant sabotage often end up harvesting their own collapse. This is what the critics don't understand. The ones who side-eyed your potential, the ones who needed you to fail so their ego could breathe. They thought you were just lucky, that your silence meant surrender. But what they didn't realize was that your silence was a signal. The universe was aligning, not in chaos, but in your favor. And now, the irony is delicious. They built traps hoping to see you fall, only to trip on the very wires they set. They whispered rumors into shadows, and now their lives are dimming. That's not coincidence, that's karma with perfect aim. Because when you're chosen, your energy haunts those who tried to contain it. Your growth is their unraveling, your peace, their panic. To every chosen one watching this, don't question the weight you carry. It's not a burden. It's a blueprint, a warning, a mirror. The same force that made you different is now making you undeniable. So if this message mirrors your soul, hit like, subscribe, and stay tapped in. Because this journey isn't just survival, it's sacred retribution wrapped in quiet power. This isn't random. This level of betrayal, this depth of spiritual warfare, only chosen ones get dragged through this kind of fire. Most people wouldn't believe it even if you explained it, because they were never built to carry what you carry. Stay with me till the end, because what's unfolding next is not just revenge, it's revelation. Number 1. Never mistake a chosen one's silence for surrender. That's divine power, holding its fire. You're not crazy, you're just calibrated to a truth most people will never detect, because they were never meant to. That pressure you feel, that strange intensity in the air when you walk into a room, that's not paranoia, it's perception, and it's making people deeply uncomfortable. They don't poke at you because you're weak. They poke because you reflect. Your very presence is a mirror, and they're terrified of what they see in it. You haven't said a word, but your silence is screaming. Your energy pulls at their nerves, not because you're loud, but because you're accurate. Intuition like yours isn't welcomed by liars. It threatens everything they've built in darkness. And lately, they've been scrambling, testing, twisting, provoking, hoping they can catch you slipping. They want you off balance. They want you second-guessing. Why? Because if you're right, then they're exposed. If you keep calling things out without ever saying a word, then their little empires of illusion start shaking from the inside out. This isn't just social tension. It's energetic warfare. And your discernment? That's your armor. You've felt it, the way people shapeshift around you, the way their tone changes when you walk in, the way they study your face while pretending to look past you. It's not curiosity, it's panic dressed in politeness. They're trying to find the weakness in something they've already failed to understand. But here's what they never expected. Your truth doesn't need validation. You don't operate on rumors. You don't need to hear what was said. You already know who said it. Your soul doesn't rely on evidence. It is the evidence. They can smile, lie, and laugh all they want. But your inner radar is too sharp to deceive. You don't investigate. You just observe, and your knowing makes them sweat. They act like they want answers, but what they really want is control. And since they can't manipulate your vision, they try to discredit your insight. They throw distractions. They ask dumb questions with loaded motives. They create confusion just to see if you'll fall for it. But you don't chase clarity. You are clarity. Chosen ones aren't obsessed with catching liars. They're built to be the reason liars get caught. The same way a light in a dark room doesn't need to search for shadows, it just is, and the shadows expose themselves in panic. Number 2. Stop running from the pain. It's the pressure that unlocks your hidden power. Chosen one, they thought the pain would kill you, that if they just pushed hard enough, lied deep enough, or abandoned you at the worst moment, you'd finally fold. But what they didn't realize is this: you don't break like the rest. You activate. What they tried to destroy in you was never weakness. It was potential under pressure, and pressure is how diamonds are made, not dust. Every time they tried to crush your spirit, they only exposed the blueprint buried beneath your survival mode. The pain didn't just change you, it introduced you to a version of yourself that never flinched, even when everything was falling apart. You weren't falling, you were forming. They were betting on your breakdown, not knowing it would become your breakthrough. That betrayal wasn't just heartbreak, it was ignition. It stripped the layers they were comfortable manipulating and brought out the version of you that no longer needs permission to shine. See, pain has a strange way of revealing what peace hides. And once you've met yourself in the fire, you stop fearing flames, you stop begging for apologies, you stop chasing closure. Because now you are the closure. You are the ending to every narrative they tried to trap you in. Let that sting, let it ache, because every pulse of that memory is sculpting something brutal and beautiful inside of you. This is the season you stop shrinking and start shaping. Not despite the pain, but because of it. They thought they buried you, but pain planted you. And now you're rising through concrete. You no longer run from pain, you wield it. Let them wonder how you're still standing. Let them panic when they realize the very thing they used to try to break you is now what fuels you. Because once a chosen one turns pain into power, there is no escape for the ones who caused it. You are no longer healing quietly. You are evolving loudly. Number 3. Don't fight what you don't understand. You might be attacking what protects them. There's a reason some people feel an instant urge to discredit you, question you, provoke you. You walk into a room and they suddenly feel out of place in their own skin. It's not you. It's what you carry. You don't need to announce your presence. Your aura does it for you. Your silence, it doesn't mean submission. It's a signal that something sacred just entered their atmosphere. And here's what they never grasped. What they were mocking, undermining, and trying to control wasn't just your personality. It was your protection. They couldn't decode your energy, so they called it arrogance. They couldn't predict your next move, so they labeled you unstable. They couldn't manipulate your reactions, so they said you were dangerous. But what they didn't realize is they were never fighting you. They were clashing with what stands with you. And you don't need to raise your voice when the entire universe is echoing your truth in silence. That's why things around them start falling apart the moment they target you. That's why their plans never stick. It's not superstition, it's precision. When you are chosen, there are unseen safeguards already in place. Not because you're better, but because your role is heavier and the universe knows it. They threw shade at what they couldn't define, and now they're learning the hard way. When you attack what's chosen, you trigger what's cosmic. You weren't placed here to be liked. You were placed here to be noticed, to disrupt false harmony, to awaken buried truth. So the moment they tried to humble you, all they really did was highlight how threatened they were by your presence. And now, everything they sent your way, it's circling back. Not because you retaliated, but because universal law does. They touched what they shouldn't have. They tested what was never theirs to judge. You don't need revenge. Number 4. Never laugh at someone's breaking point. That same collapse might be your sentence. Let's get something straight. There's a special kind of darkness in someone who smiles while another's soul breaks. That isn't just cruelty, that's spiritual rot. And chosen ones, you've seen it, you've felt it, you've lived through people who found entertainment in your exhaustion, who felt powerful when you looked powerless, who laughed at your pain like it was a punchline written just for their amusement. But what they didn't realize was that moment, your collapse, was being recorded, not by cameras, not by witnesses, but by a force they can't deceive or delete. They mocked your breakdown, not knowing it was the blueprint for your breakthrough. They didn't just watch you fall, they celebrated it. That's where they signed their sentence. Because here's the twist life always delivers. The same moment they used to humiliate you becomes the timestamp for their unraveling. And it doesn't hit back instantly. It waits, it multiplies. And when it finally comes around, it doesn't whisper, it drags. And they won't see it coming because karma doesn't walk through the front door. It slips in through the cracks they left behind in their character. You see that moment you broke? That wasn't weakness, it was rebirth. They were laughing at a transformation they were too blind to recognize. And now they're losing sleep. Now their smiles don't stick. Now the silence they used to mock is the silence that haunts them. So chosen ones, never forget. When someone makes a joke out of your pain, the universe makes a lesson out of their arrogance. Your pain had purpose. Their laughter had consequences. And now, the very collapse they cheered for is echoing through their own lives. This time, it's not funny. Number 5. Don't try to shatter the quiet ones. They're the ones built to strike without warning. They always go after the quiet ones first, the ones who don't beg to be seen, the ones who sit at the back of the room but feel like the loudest presence in it, because there's something about silence that makes insecure people itch. It reminds them they're not in control. They mistook your calm for fear, thought your stillness meant you were weak, unsure, or breakable. But chosen ones don't show their power like fireworks. They store it like lightning in a glass jar, controlled, contained, but fatal when provoked. You were never soft, you were silent. And there's a difference. See, loud people announce their moves, quiet ones become the move. You didn't explain your pain because you were too busy transforming it. You didn't chase closure because you knew karma was already on its way. And that silence, that was your war cry wrapped in elegance. They kept poking, pushing, testing, waiting for an outburst. What they didn't realize is that your silence was never a retreat. It was a recalibration. While they were out building egos, you were building depth. While they were laughing, you were loading, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. And now, they can't understand how the same person they tried to tear down has become untouchable. You're not even reacting anymore. You're outgrowing in real time. And that's what's shaking them. Because silence is scary when it comes from someone who used to scream. It means they've healed into a version that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, and doesn't need revenge to win. So let this be clear. Chosen ones don't explode. They evolve. And when they strike, it's not out of rage, it's out of alignment. They thought they broke you, but all they did was awaken a force that doesn't need noise to be noticed. You were never quiet because you had nothing to say. Number 6. Don't violate what's sacred. Peace will leave and chaos will replace it. See, when someone lays hands, physically, emotionally, spiritually, on what was never theirs to touch, they don't just disturb a person, they disrupt a frequency, a sacred one. And sacred energy doesn't shout, it doesn't react, it calculates. And when it strikes back, it doesn't need thunder, it just needs timing. That's what happened when they abused you. They didn't just attack you, They violated something ancient, something protected, something sealed, and that violation wasn't just a mistake, it was an energetic crime, one the universe never overlooks. They treated your value like it was disposable. They treated your softness like weakness. They looked at your boundaries and laughed until everything they touched started falling apart. And now, one by one, their normal is disappearing. That's not bad luck. That's the invoice. Peace was the price, and now chaos has moved in like it owns the place. You can tell when someone's crossed a line they can't uncross. Their sleep gets shallow, their eyes lose focus, their wins feel empty, their smiles crack under silence. They might still pretend in public, but their private world is unraveling, and the scariest part? They don't know why, but you do. Because you remember when they mocked what was sacred, when they laughed at your breaking point, when they took what wasn't theirs and called it love. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the pause before the storm. And now the storm has arrived, dressed as confusion, anxiety, insomnia, and a slow-burning regret they can't name but can't escape. This is what happens when people cross chosen ones, thinking there's no consequence. They think they're playing chess, but the board was never theirs. And the pieces weren't plastic, they were spiritual. You don't play with sacred energy and walk away untouched. The ones who mishandle you end up haunted. So let this be the lesson. Peace doesn't leave quietly. It slams the door on the way out and leaves chaos to finish the conversation. Number 7. Don't touch someone's reputation with dirty hands. Yours might be the one that crumbles in silence. They never wanted to break you quietly. They wanted an audience. So they whispered, twisted and sprinkled poison in the places you couldn't defend yourself. Not because you were guilty, but because they couldn't stand the truth shining through your presence. They didn't just question your reputation. They attempted to rewrite it in their image, and they did it with dirty hands. But here's what they never expected. Karma doesn't shout when it arrives. It whispers, and then it wrecks. While they thought they were assassinating your character, something else was happening in silence. The foundation beneath their image began to rot. The same lips that tried to dismantle your name are now trembling, trying to remember which lie they told last. The same eyes that watched your downfall are now watching their own alliances unravel, and the silence you endured, it has become the echo that haunts them now. You see, when someone tries to stain a reputation that was never built on approval in the first place, all they do is highlight their own insecurity. You didn't rise through flattery. You rose through fire. And what's built in fire doesn't crumble from gossip. They needed people to see you a certain way to feel powerful. You just needed to keep walking. And now the same crowds they used to turn against you are starting to see through the performance. Their applause has stopped. The room feels colder. The charm they relied on no longer lands. Because your name didn't need defending, it just needed time. And time has a beautiful way of making truth undeniable. So let them lie, let them twist, let them talk. Because now, the weight of your silence is collapsing their stage. Chosen ones don't fight for reputation. They let the truth do the slow, merciless work. Number 8. Don't play God with people's lives, because when the real judge shows up, mercy leaves the room. There's a special kind of arrogance in those who think they can control a chosen one. The kind of people who rewrite your story with their dirty hands, then act surprised when the ending flips. They didn't uplift you. They tried to script you, tried to decide who you were allowed to be, how loud you could speak, how far you were allowed to rise. And the most dangerous part, they did it without guilt, because in their mind, your kindness wasn't grace, it was permission. Your silence wasn't power, it was weakness. Your loyalty wasn't love, it was leverage. They played puppet master with your boundaries, your emotions, your time, pulling strings they had no business touching. But what they never understood was this: you weren't theirs to manipulate. You're not clay in the hands of cowards. You're the storm they didn't see coming. Because while they were busy controlling the room, the universe was preparing to clear it. This is where everything shifts. Because when balance returns, it doesn't knock, it breaks the door down. And when it arrives, it doesn't come asking questions. It comes with consequences. The ones who played judge, jury, and executioner in your life, they're about to feel what it's like to stand on trial. And here's the truth: mercy doesn't walk into every courtroom. You gave them space, time, warnings. They thought your patience was endless, but it was a countdown, and now that timer's done ticking. They sat on your throne like it belonged to them. Now watch them get dragged off it by forces they never even believed in. To every chosen one, remember this: those who tried to rule over your life are now facing the verdict they never prepared for. You don't have to lift a finger, just keep rising. Because when you stop entertaining the performance, their little illusion collapses without applause. Let this be their lesson: never crown yourself in a kingdom you didn't build. Number 9. Stop twisting their truth, because reality doesn't bend forever, it snaps back with fire. Chosen one, they didn't just lie on your name, they tried to rearrange the entire storyline to erase your voice and rewrite your worth. They edited conversations, manufactured chaos, and convinced others you were unstable, dramatic, or dangerous, all to cover their guilt. But truth isn't something you can bury forever. It waits, collects dust, and sharpens its edge in silence. They mocked your breakdown, turned your clarity into confusion, and fed you illusions until you started questioning your own memory. That wasn't love. That was control dressed in false concern. And the more they twisted, the more they believed they had mastered your reality. But there's a limit. Truth might bow for a moment, but it never kneels. And the pressure they applied is starting to crack their mask. You can already feel it. Their stories are slipping. Their tone is different. Their eyes dart when you walk in the room. That's not power, they're panicking. Because the thing about false narratives, they eventually trip over the facts. The same ones who laughed at your silence are now haunted by it. The same ones who said you were unstable are watching their own lives spiral out of control, and the same ones who denied your pain are now stumbling through theirs, unable to explain the chaos chasing them. Reality doesn't need revenge, it just needs time. And that time, it's up. So don't lift a finger, chosen one. You don't need to clear your name. Truth is doing it for you. You don't need to scream anymore. Your silence has become a verdict. Let them talk. Let them scramble. Their entire storyline is starting to rot at the root, and when it falls, it'll be loud, not because you forced it, but because reality never forgets what lies tried to hide, and fire always returns to what tried to smother it. Number 10. Never bury what you didn't plant. Chosen ones don't die, they resurrect with a vengeance. They celebrated too early. They thought your silence was surrender. They thought your exhaustion meant the end. But what they failed to realize is this: you were never buried, you were planted, and the storm they thought would finish you only watered your rebirth. See, chosen ones don't die in the dirt, we transform in it. While they danced around your downfall and whispered about your disappearance, something ancient was waking up inside you. They didn't see the roots forming beneath their mockery. They didn't feel the pressure building in the silence. They never expected that the same soil they threw over you in malice would be the ground you rise from, louder, clearer, and far more dangerous than ever. What they mistook for your grave was actually your greenhouse. Because here's what people never grasp. Chosen ones don't beg to be understood. We don't fight to stay seen. We disappear to rebuild. And when we return untouchable, sharper, smarter, unapologetically aware of every mask that once sat at our table. They tried to kill your potential, but they couldn't even scratch your destiny. You were designed to outlive their betrayal, to outgrow their projections, and to outshine the version of you they tried to bury under shame and silence. So now, as you rise, watch the irony unfold. The grave diggers are looking confused. The silence they mistook for death is echoing back at them as thunder. The very moment they thought they ended you was the exact moment the universe whispered, "Now we begin." This is the law of return. What dies without purpose never resurrects. But your pain had purpose, and now your vengeance isn't petty, it's divine alignment. You don't need revenge. You are the result that proves they failed. Chosen one, remember this. You were never buried. You were becoming. And now that you've risen, don't look back. Let the grave remain empty. You've got empires to build. Number 11. Don't violate spiritual contracts. You're stacking debts the universe is already calculating. Some things don't need to be written to be real. Some boundaries are ancient, etched in energy, not ink. The ones who tried to break you didn't just cross the line, they shattered something sacred. And now they're walking around like nothing's coming. But the universe has already started counting. They thought this was personal. They thought this was just between you and them. But what they didn't know is that harming you meant interfering with something encoded far deeper. You're not just another person. You're a living blueprint, a soul under protection, wired with purpose, aligned by design. When they tried to manipulate you, silence you, or use your light as leverage, they weren't just being toxic. They were making a spiritual mistake. Because every chosen one walks with unspoken contracts, codes, assignments. Not everyone can see them. Not everyone can touch them without consequence. But the ones who do, the ones who ignore every red flag in your energy and still choose betrayal, they sign themselves into a debt they'll never afford to repay. And no, it doesn't come instantly. That's what fools them. They think the lack of lightning means they got away with it. But the truth is more terrifying. The silence means it's being documented. Their debt is compounding, quietly, precisely, like cosmic interest on every offense. They don't realize that the discomfort creeping into their lives is the collection notice, the failed plans, the loss of peace, the breakdowns that don't make sense. That's not just karma, it's spiritual correction. Chosen ones don't seek revenge. They don't have to, because when you carry a divine contract, the universe enforces the fine print, not out of cruelty, but to restore the balance they tried to throw off. So let them laugh, let them mock, let them believe the silence means safety, because every betrayal has a cost. Number 12. Don't trust time to erase your damage, it's just the clock. Counting down to your reckoning. They thought time would bury what they did. That silence meant safety. That moving on meant immunity. But here's what they never understood. Time is not their savior, it's their sentence in slow motion. Chosen ones, you know this better than anyone. Just because you've been quiet doesn't mean the fire went out. It was smoldering beneath the surface, building, growing, calculating. See, time doesn't erase truth. It preserves it in crystal clarity until the moment of exposure is too loud to silence. The hands on the clock weren't turning in their favor. They were ticking toward detonation. Because every second they spent unbothered, every month they lived like your pain was invisible, every year they acted like what they didn't break something sacred, wasn't grace. It was delay, a delay with a deadline. They assumed your scars meant weakness, that because you didn't retaliate right away you were defeated, but you weren't defeated. You were becoming, you were evolving in the quiet, and now, as their world starts unraveling thread by thread, they can't trace it back. It feels like chaos to them, but to the universe, it's symmetry. Time was never their cover, it was their countdown. And now, the silence has expired, the storm has memory, and the pain they caused is showing up in the mirror of their own life. Failed plans, lost peace, random chaos that isn't random at all. It's the echo of every moment they thought they got away with hurting you. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned. You were watched, preserved, protected by something bigger than revenge. You don't have to lift a hand, because the same clock they trusted to protect their secrets is now delivering their consequences. So if you've been wondering why things suddenly feel like they're shifting, this is your confirmation. It's not random, it's the return. The balance is correcting itself, and the ones who wounded you without remorse are now facing what they once laughed at. This is the season where the hidden gets revealed and the chosen ones rise, without apology, without permission. If this message hit home like the video, subscribe to the channel and drop "I was never crazy, I was ahead" in the comments if your silence is starting to speak louder than their lies. This is just the beginning.